condemning the violence which has gripped the people of Israel and Palestine. India at the United Nations Security Council meeting called for de-escalation and resumption of talks. Ambassador to the United Nations, T.S. Tirumurthy, expressed India's deep concern over the violence which has occurred in Jerusalem, especially during the holy month of Ramzan, and reiterated India's strong condemnation of all acts of violence, provocation, incitement, as well as destruction. In a nuanced statement, India opposed indiscriminate rocket firing by Hamas from Gaza to target the civilian population in Israel, while also supporting the Palestinian cause and its commitment to the two-state solution. While the UN Security Council could not issue a statement on the escalating situation after what Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi called a block by one country, the US, of course, coming under pressure to reconsider its position on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Joining us to look at this story in greater detail is Ambassador Suresh Kumar Goel, former diplomat. We also have Dr. Wael Awad, South Asia analyst and senior foreign journalist, joining us live. Sumit Peer, political commentator, is also live with us in the broadcast. Professor Madhu Nalapat, editorial director at Sunday Guardian, is joining us as well. Dr. Awad, let me begin with you first. How do you view India's very balanced, nuanced statement on the Israel-Palestine conflict and fresh clashes?
Thank you, Uday. I never doubted India's position throughout the years of my living in Asia for more than 4 decades. And I always seen the Indian position having changed a single is a consistent position of India. It might be people thinking that the government is changing tactics, but absolutely not. It's just a pragmatism or realism of the reality on the ground. But the basic or the crux of the matter is there is a justice, there is injustice has been done, and India is for justice and adhering to the international community and UN Security Council resolution in this regard. So India have always been, and to be honest with you, India is the first non-Arab state who have recognized the Palestinian as a state, and they have opened for them an embassy, and they have also contributed a lot of helping them even during the Corona COVID-19, and where they are also getting all the aids and the infrastructure from the Indian support have been commendable. So having said that, I would say Indian position, I don't have any problem of India, and they have been saying it vocally and even to meeting with different diplomats. And from time to time, we need to reiterate that we are for a two-state solution, and that's the only way out of this quagmire.
Okay. Professor Nalapat, do you also welcome India's statement made on this issue at the United Nations? And also, what is to be read into it? What sort of message is India sending out to this statement to Israel, the people of Palestine, and of course to the world at large?
Well, I think the message is very clear. The message is please end violence. And that is so very important, because the fact is that India is the home of Mahatma Gandhi and his philosophy of non-violence. And the reality is that violence is not going to solve any of the problems of the Middle East. You need a situation in which two sides come and meet in an atmosphere of peaceful conciliation. And I don't know when that is going to come. It doesn't seem likely anytime soon. But I think the statement by India, as Professor Awad very correctly said, reflects the reality of the fact that India is friends with a huge spectrum of countries across the Middle East. For example, Syria. India is very friendly with Syria. The Indian embassy in Damascus has been functioning continuously, despite the fact that Syria has been, frankly, suffering horribly since around 2011 onwards. India is very friendly with Iran, with Saudi Arabia, with Israel, and as Dr. Awad very correctly says, among the first locations where there was a Palestinian embassy. And I can tell you there were not too many places in the Gulf where there were such embassies. Among the first locations was India. Among the first locations where the African National Congress set up an office and began functioning was India. I mean, Nelson Mandela was in jail, but his office was functioning in India. So I would like to say that India has always maintained a balanced position, and that balance is continued to the present.
Okay. Sumit Peer, India, of course, coming out condemning any sort of violence that is occurred either from Hamas's side or from Israel's side, calling for peace, which is what Mahatma Gandhi has always stood for, the father of the nation. Sumit, your reaction to, of course, what India has said at the United Nations and how you believe it will be perceived by the world at large, but particularly by the United States, whom it seems is backing Israel.
I think, Uday, thank you very much for having me on your show. What India gave is a very balanced statement, and if you listen to Mr. T.S. Trimurti carefully, he says we condemn the rocket fire from Hamas. And in a way, when you condemn the rocket fire from Hamas, Israel has a right to, or is rather duty bound to defend its citizens. And at the end of the statement, he says we are supporting Just Palestine cause. Just Palestine cause is a liberal Palestinian cause which we have been supporting from the very beginning. But in any given point of time, the rockets coming from Hamas to Israel have to stop. Then only the peace can prevail, because deaths on this side or that side are deplorable. We don't support any kind of violence. But in this present situation, the onus lies on Hamas to stop the rocket fire going into Israel. You see, when you look at this Palestine issue, there is West Bank, Uday. When they had an agreement with Israel, after that there had been no violence in the West Bank, and still West Bank is peaceful. There's a part of Jerusalem which is even a part of West Bank, because there is no problems like that. They respect the truce, they respect the division. But the problem is always with Hamas, who resorts to this rocket firing. I'm telling you just one situation, Uday. Imagine Iron Dome, which stops 99.9% of the rockets. 99.9% of the rockets. One rocket out of 1,000 lands in Israel, you have seen the destruction. Imagine Israel was a country with no Iron Dome and you have 3,000 rockets being fired on you. What will you do? The responsibility of the ceasefire, the responsibility of letting not Palestinians die, innocent Palestinian women, children, and not to die, is on Hamas. Hamas should immediately stop this rocket wala tamasha, then only peace can prevail. That is the unified message of India. India said we want the violence to stop, but it will only and only stop the moment you stop rockets. Because Israel has a very stated position. Like US says, will not negotiate with terrorists. If you ask a kid anywhere in the world, you know Israel will retaliate, and they will retaliate with force. And they should retaliate. Imagine a situation they don't have this Iron Dome. You would have wiped out Israel. Last time Hamas promised in 2014, they will not manufacture rockets. What did they do? They sent 3,000 rockets to Israel. I mean, last 7-8 years, are you busy assembling these rockets, Katyusha rockets? And one startling fact, Uday, out of every rocket fired, 17% of the rockets go back into Gaza, because they are amateur weapons. They are not precision weapons. So the rockets fired by, Hamas to Israel, 17% of them end up on the innocent civilians of Gaza. Who is responsible for that? Who is accountable for that? Israel only 1% of them land, but 17% are going back to Gaza. Hamas has to stop this, and India has done the right thing, appealed for peace. We want this violence to stop, and that is the best way of going forward. Look at the West Bank. Look at how West Bank has prevailed. There is no disruption. Why only we have this problem with Gaza? The density of Israel is 500 people per square meter, while in Gaza it is 5,500. So Hamas knows if there's a retaliation on Israel, that casualties will be very, very high. Why is Hamas using kindergartens? Why are they using mosques? Why are they using hospitals to store ammunition? These are the questions which should be asked to Hamas. I mean, Hamas
Ambassador Suresh Kumar Goel, do you believe this was a very nuanced position put out by India at the United Nations? You've read our statement, you've analyzed it. What do you make of it?
It was a very balanced statement coming from Tirumurti in the Security Council. It's very clear that if you look at the real politics of the situation involving in the whole conflict, at the moment, really speaking, very, very difficult to say who is responsible for it. I have listened to Sumit very, very carefully, who is blaming Hamas for all that is happening there. Clearly, Hamas has fired rockets into the Israeli territory. But to the best of my recollection, there have been provocations also from the Israeli side. The issue really now in the current situation is not where the provocation came from, not who retaliated and who did what. The issue really here is ultimately where is this going to lead? And the only way out of it really is de-escalation, disengaging from this kind of a conflict. And in that, it has to come from both the sides. It has to come from Hamas, it has to come from the Israeli side also. I don't agree with Sumit when he said the West is all quiet. This time, the problems have begun in West also, in the West Bank also. Ramallah is not quiet. there are comparisons on both sides. Netanyahu is fighting for his survival. For him to show any weakness at this stage would be his political death. Hamas is looking at the elections in future vis-a-vis Fatah. So given the situation, they are both fighting for survival, both Hamas as well as Netanyahu. Who will actually then blink? Who has influence? Hamas, I do believe that both Egypt and Iran should be able to play a role in getting Hamas to back down. But who will be able to compel Israel to back down, I do not know. Neither the USA, nor anyone in Europe, nor I can't think of anyone really who can at the moment tell Netanyahu to back down. So if Netanyahu won't back down, even if Hamas is persuaded to back down, it's continuation of the same. So on the whole, all good wishes apart, all sentiments apart, that there should be de-escalation. I really don't see any real possibilities of the conflict ending anytime soon.
Okay. Dr. Awad, while of course our statement did call for ending of all violence and for things to stabilize, to return back to peace along that Gaza Strip and of course in Israel, we did go a bit further and also reiterate a two-state solution. Talk about the just cause for the Palestinian state as well. How will this be perceived and read, Dr. Awad?
Thank you, Uday. And I'm listening to all my colleagues, and of course, I do respect their point of view. My here is today we are commemorating the 73rd anniversary of the Nakba. The problem of Palestine did not start with the Hamas. Hamas is just a recent phenomenon. The problem of Palestine started even prior to 1948. It is actually 1918 with Balfour Declaration, where occupation British colonialism have occupied Palestine and promised the Israelis, the Jew, a state. And the European who prosecuted the Jew in Europe, and they have created the Holocaust, we sheltered them in the Arab world. We gave them the shelters in Palestine. So they came to survive because they have survived with us, the Jews, throughout history. If you read the history, you will know that the Jewish have only found a peaceful period in their life under the Islamic rule. So therefore, they have lived with us. But when you start bringing a Zionist idea that this is a land without people and you want to implement it, and you start expelling people, 75% of the people of Gaza are actually from actual Palestine, who has been expelled throughout the years, who have been pushed out of their houses, massacre after massacre, from Deir Yassin 1948 till 1956, till 1973. 4 wars have been fought. Most of the Palestine land has been annihilated. Palestinians were asking after Oslo for 20% of the territories to be their own state, after which it would become only 5%. And you have seen that the settlers have increased tenfold in Palestine, and especially in Jerusalem, from 32,000 settlers into 850,000 settlers at the Palestinian land. So you come and you occupy my house, you push me out into the servant quarter, you cut the water and the electricity and the power, and you hammer me every day, and you expect me to sit down and open my hand and succumb to the pressure. There is a resistance to occupation. The whole issue, the crux of the problem is occupation. There is a violation of international law. We need to implement. It is a shame on the international community that they failed after dividing Palestine in 1948 till date to find a peaceful solution to the crisis. We are not here to be pro or anti. We are all human. The killing of any humans, it's condemnable no matter what. So it is a pure war created by Netanyahu. I can give you a very simple example. When 23 years ago, I interviewed late President Arafat. I interviewed him. And I asked him a question when Netanyahu was in power. What do you expect from Netanyahu? He looked at me 3 times. He looked at my eyes with anger in his eyes, and I repeated the question 3 times, and he left his hand in there, nothing. I interviewed Mahmoud Abbas 10 years ago, and I asked him the same question. What do you expect from Netanyahu? He said, peace for peace, talk for talk. I don't expect anything from him. So if you don't know that this man is not a man of peace, why he has solely to take this war into his own hand and provoke the Palestinian and East Jerusalem and siege the holy mosque and bomb the people with bullets and shower them with bullets and gas, and you expect the Hamas to sit quiet? He was provoking Hamas because he was prepared to this assault. This is a crime against the humanity. This is a genocide. There is no war. Let's accept that this is a country under occupation, and we need the international community to play a role to find out a durable solution where we can see the Arabs and the Israeli coexist and living together again. We have lived for centuries, we will live together. There is no way out. This kind of war, of provocative, perpetual provocations for a permanent war, it has to be put to an end. That is the message we need all to give.
No, that's a very detailed assessment of the situation, and an emotional one as well from Dr. Awad. Professor Nalapad, how do you react to some of the points raised by the others earlier? Dr. Awad's point just now, but also the fact that, yesterday Benjamin Netanyahu did put out a statement on Twitter where he put out the flags of various countries who backed Israel. Interestingly, India's flag was not on that. Some people thought perhaps it's an oversight, but later when India's statement of the United Nations came in, many said this was the reason why he did not put India's flag in his tweet. How do you believe India's statement will be perceived, particularly our support for the Palestinian cause as well, and your reaction and assessment to what the others have said before you?
I'd like to say that I admire the idealism of my very dear friend, Dr. Awad. He's an idealist, and you have a very strong idealist tradition in India, for example, and you have a similar tradition in other parts of the world. Now, in my case, I have been studying geopolitics from the point of view of not, if I may say so, pure academic analysis, but the practice of geopolitics as actually carried out in the world. And I'm sorry to say that the practice of geopolitics is very different from the idealism that is there in what should be. We all know, or at least each of us has a very clear idea of the world as it should be. But the reality is we are living in the world as it is, and it is very unlikely that that world is going to change. Now, as Dr. Awad very correctly said, a lot has happened in that particular region since 1948. I happen to believe that the Jewish people were subjected to the most inhuman massacre, as correctly said by Dr. Awad, by Germans, by a particular country, Germany, by Nazis in that country. Inhuman kind of atrocities were perpetrated on them. Well, it's not the only place where inhuman atrocities were perpetrated. You had that in Russia, you had that in other countries as well, in Europe, and it's a fact that the Jews have been very horribly persecuted throughout many, many years of their history, which is where you had a section which said, we need a land of our own, and they went back to what they say is the land of Judea and Samaria, and that is the land of Israel, which is very clearly a Jewish state. Israel makes absolutely no apologies about it, that it is a Jewish state. Iran, for example, makes no apologies. Saudi Arabia makes no apologies. The country that broke away from India on the ground of religion, Pakistan, makes no apologies that it is a religious state. Israel is a religious state. Now, my point is very simple. There was a war in 1948 in which a lot of countries participated. We know what happened in that war. The territory of Israel expanded. There was a war in 1967 in which a lot of countries participated. We know what happened in that war. Israel's territory expanded. And there was a war in 1973 again, which frankly at least led to a certain accord between Egypt and Israel withdrew from the Sinai desert. And that, I think, was a very welcome gesture, which I think was appreciated by the Egyptian side. Till today, Israel has not had any problems from the Egyptian side. My worry today is very simple. As someone who has been studying this region, and may I say, someone who admires both Arabs and Israelis. I've been to Israel, I've been to the Arab world. Both are absolutely wonderful people. I've been to Dr. Awad's country, Syria, more than once. It's a beautiful country. And today, look what is happening to it. And the point is, my fear is that something very similar is likely to happen to Gaza, because I think what is happening now is a harbinger of a further invasion by the IDF of Gaza and the complete military occupation of Gaza. I think the situation is heading in that direction. Hamas does not believe in the right of the state of Israel to exist. It's a little difficult to deal with somebody. Let's say, for example, you're negotiating with somebody, and that person says that you should be killed, and that is my position. It's difficult to negotiate with that kind of person. My request to those who are in Hamas, please understand, violence has only led to the Palestinians losing. Why? Because the practice is different from the idealistic reality. And now, the only way out, in my view, is a peaceful resolution. And if, for example, the Palestinian people, as Fatah has tried to do, frankly, as Abu Mazen has tried his very best to do, frankly, and I really admire the way the leadership held firm, I admire the way that the Palestinians have tried the path of peace. And as you correctly said, certain areas are very peaceful, and certain areas where, frankly, Hamas does not believe in that. Hamas believes violence will succeed. My point is the empirical evidence is very clear. Violence will only lead to death and destruction 99.9% among the Palestinian people. Therefore, my request to all my Palestinian friends is, please abandon that path, because I can tell you what you're doing now is creating a situation in which more and more people in Israel are supporting the hard right. Netanyahu actually, 15 years ago, he was considered hard right. He was considered a hardliner 10 years ago. Now, Netanyahu is considered to be almost a moderate. I mean, he's not a hardliner anymore. He's almost a moderate. The people who are to the right of him are increasing in number, and they are very definitely very hardline. This is what is happening. It's a terrible dialectic that's happening. And I want to end this by saying the Palestinian people are among the most gifted in the world. They're brilliant. Wherever they go in the world, they're scientists, they're scholars, they're doctors, they're engineers. They have done so much of good to the world, just as the Jewish people have been doing throughout history. Please give them a chance. And the only way you can give them a chance is to ensure there's no violence, which is why I stand foursquare between the statement behind the statement made by Ambassador Tirumurti at the UNSC.
Well, I think you put it very succinctly indeed. And I'm going to have to let that be the last word because we've run out of time. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us on this debate, on this show, of course, looking at India's statement on the burning Israel-Palestine conflict. Let's certainly hope that peace returns to that area.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.